Hey everybody, welcome to this week's 3-Minute Talk. This will be part 1 in our Understanding the Bible series, and today we're going to talk about context. Context is king when it comes to studying the Bible, because if you rip a verse out of its context, you can make it say anything you want it to say. So when you're reading the Bible and you come across a difficult paragraph or even a difficult verse, you're supposed to use what's called 20/20 vision, which is to say you read 20 verses before and after the verse in question, so you can see what is being talked about within the general flow of thought. Also, some keys to remember is what's going on in your book or the particular book of the Bible you're studying, and then what's going on historically, or the bigger picture of the biblical narrative of what's going on in context. And I know that seems kind of daunting and overwhelming, but the more you read, the more that you study, the easier that it gets. So let's use some 20/20 vision on one of the most often quoted verses of the Old Testament, Jeremiah 29:11. Here's what it says. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans for hope and plans for a future." And we see this verse written down in different things like graduation cards, for instance, something that comes to my mind. So God has a plan for each and every person, plans to prosper them, and not plans for them to be harmed. But tell that to the Apostle Paul, who was beheaded because of his faith, or Peter, who was crucified upside down. That doesn't really hold water. What's really going on in that verse? Well, when you use 20/20 vision, in context you find out that the Israelites have just been sent into Babylonian captivity. Their temple was destroyed. They seem completely distraught and totally hopeless. And Jeremiah writes to them and says, this is going to last for 70 years. But at the end of 70 years, you will be brought back from captivity. Don't lose hope. Israel will be restored. Well, whenever you think about applying that verse, when he says, I know the plans I have for you, he's not even talking about individual Israelites, because there are Israelites who are going to die in captivity. And some of their children are going to die in captivity. And they're going to have to wait until their grandchildren are able to be the ones that actually see the fulfillment of this prophecy. This isn't a promise that harm will not come to us. This is a promise to the nation of Israel that God has not forgotten about them. And so when you think about applying that verse to our lives, the principle is God has not forgotten about us or his church, but we can't make that say that we'll never suffer harm or go through difficult times for ourselves. Because if we want to let the Bible speak and say what it has to say, that's when it has real power for our lives. When you're reading the Bible this week, remember, context is king. God bless and happy reading.